welcome to this explainer. Today, we're breaking down exactly how to use relative pronouns to make your English sound way more natural, fluent, and confident. If you ever feel like you're speaking in these short, kind of robotic bursts, you are in exactly the right place. We're going to upgrade your sentence-building skills right now.
Think about the difference between these two thoughts. You could say, I know the girl. She won the competition. It works, right? But it's a bit choppy. Now hear this. I know the girl who won the competition. Boom! By just tossing in a simple relative pronoun, in this case, who, we smoothly connect those independent ideas into one flowing, sophisticated thought. It's a total game changer for how you sound.
So here is our roadmap for today. 1. Connecting your ideas. 2. People, who and whom. 3. Possession and things. 4. The universal connector, that. And 5. We're going to put it all to the test.
All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, connecting your ideas and building that foundation.
The absolute most crucial thing to grasp is that words like who, whom, whose, which, and that, well, they're basically bridges. They seamlessly connect extra details to a person or thing you've already mentioned. So instead of stopping and starting a brand new sentence just to give a little more info, the relative pronoun acts as this grammatical superglue, linking a descriptive clause right to the noun it modifies.
Moving right along to Section 2, people, who and whom. The rule of thumb here is actually super simple. If the person is the subject, the one actually doing the action, you use who. For example, the woman who lives next door, the friend who speaks 3 languages. In every single one of those cases, the person is performing the action, so who is absolutely your perfect connector. Now things get a little spicy when we introduce whom. We use whom when the person is the object, meaning they are the one receiving the action, not doing it. Think about the sentence, the man whom I met yesterday is my teacher. I am the one doing the meeting. The man is being met. He's the object. So technically, grammatically, whom is the right call there.
But listen, don't stress too much about whom seriously. Because in everyday conversational English, native speakers literally just use who most of the time anyway. They'll say, the man who I met yesterday. Or even better, they just drop it completely and say, the man I met yesterday is my teacher. So while it's great to know the technical rule for, say, formal writing, do not let it trip you up when you're just chatting.
Okay, let's pivot to Section 3, possession and things. When something belongs to someone, or even a non-human entity like a company, whose is your go-to connector to show that possession. The girl whose father just means her father. A man whose car means his car. It's this highly efficient little shortcut to show ownership without completely wrecking the rhythm of your sentence. Now, whenever you're adding info about an object or an animal, which is exactly the tool you need. We keep who strictly for people. So for everything else, books, cars, dogs, we tag in which. The book which I bought is very interesting. It firmly attaches those details directly to the non-human things you're talking about.
Which brings us to Section 4, the universal connector, that.
That is incredibly versatile. It lets you seamlessly swap it in for who or which in a ton of everyday situations. You can use it for people, like the man that lives next door, or for things, the phone that I bought. It is universally understood and extremely common in spoken English.
But here is the catch. That is powerful, but it has one very strict rule. We never use it when we're just adding extra, non-defining bonus information separated by commas. For example, if you say, my brother, who lives in London, is a doctor, you cannot swap who for that, because lives in London is just extra info tucked inside those commas. Commas in the word that simply do not mix in relative clauses. You got to stick to who or which there. So let's take a quick mental screenshot of all 5 of these tools before we move on. Who for people, whom for people as objects, whose for possession, which for things and animals, and that as your versatile universal connector. Lock these into your brain right now because you're going to need them in about 5 seconds.
All right, Section 5. It is time to put it to the test.
Question 1. The woman blank works here is my teacher. Is it A, which, B, who, or C, whose? Think about our rule for people who are the subject of the sentence. The woman is doing the working. What's your answer?
Spot on. The answer is B, who. The woman who works here is my teacher, because we are directly connecting the woman to the action of working. She's a person, she's the subject, making who the absolute only logical bridge.
Question 2. The car blank I bought is very fast. Is it A, which, B, whose, or C, whom? Let's look at the object here. It's a car, an inanimate object. Which tool do we strictly use for non-human things? Lock it in.
You got it, it's A, which. The car which I bought is very fast. We use which for things and animals. Though, hey, remember from our universal connector lesson? Saying the car that I bought would also be completely correct here, since there are no commas isolating the clause.
Question 3, the final challenge. The boy blank mother is a doctor is my friend. A, who, B, whose, or C, which. Look really closely at the relationship between the boy and the mother here. We need to show belonging. How do we show that the mother belongs to the boy?
Nailed it. It's B, whose. The boy whose mother is a doctor is my friend. It perfectly connects the boy to his mother to demonstrate possession, seamlessly linking those two nouns while keeping the whole sentence flowing.
So here is an easy memory trick you can take with you. Who and whom equal people. Whose unlocks possession. Which is for things, and that bridges the gap for both person and thing. Just visualize this list the next time you're writing an email or speaking up in a meeting.
You now have the exact grammatical toolkit you need to build serious fluency. Those choppy, robotic sentences, they are gone. So I want to leave you with this. How will you confidently connect your ideas in your very next English conversation? Get out there, test your newly acquired tools, and start building better sentences today. Thanks so much for joining me.